Hello, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jose, good afternoon. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you are live on the live stream, okay?
Okay, perfect. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You look good and sound good.
Okay, thanks. We'll just wait for a
Thank
quorum to
you.
start. Thanks again.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, everybody.
Hey, good afternoon. Okay, Mr. Chair, I believe we have a quorum if you're ready to get started. Mr. Chair, I believe we have a quorum if you're ready to go.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to today's City Plan Commission meeting. My name is Kevin Smith with Planning Inspection. We continue with the video conference meetings of the City Plan Commission due to the pandemic. We're grateful that we can still continue to meet over technology to continue this important business of the city. With that, those that are joining us on the phone, you'll press *6 at the appropriate time to unmute yourselves. You'll be given an opportunity to speak later on during the meeting, but ask all the participants in this meeting, if you're not speaking, please keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking to avoid any background noise interference. With that, I will pass it over to Elsa Ramirez, who will do a roll call of the City Plan Commission. Thank you.
Good afternoon, City Plan Commission. This is Elsa Ramirez, Planning and Inspections, and I'm going to call roll of the commissioners in order to establish quorum for this meeting. Sandra Almanzan.
Almanzan, I'm here.
Chris Cummings.
Here.
Martina Lorey. Carlos Gallinar.
I'm here.
Daniel Kerry Whalen.
Here.
Juan Uribe.
Here.
Jose Guzman.
Present.
Jose Reyes.
Present.
And Kevin Quinn.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thanks, Elsa. Good afternoon and welcome to the June 3rd, 2021 meeting of the City Plan Commission. My name is Chris Cummings, Chair of the Commission, and I call this meeting to order at 1:33 p.m. Ms. Lorey is not here. Anyone want to volunteer to read the statement to the public? With that, I will email the statement to the public to everyone on the commission so that you may have a chance to study it and step up when Ms. Lorey is not here. The City Plan Commission has sole and final approval authority over subdivision maps. Although the Commission has sole and final authority with respect to subdivision approval, this authority is statutorily limited to a ministerial examination of the application's conformance to all applicable code provisions. The staff report for an agenda item may include conditions, exceptions, or modifications. If the Commission does not wish to approve an exception or modification or require a condition, then the Commission's motion will state which have not been approved. Otherwise, the staff report with all modifications, exceptions, and conditions is approved, and the applicant shall comply with all provisions of the staff report. All agenda items other than subdivision items will be conducted in the form of a public hearing. The chairperson of the Commission may allocate and limit the time of persons speaking before the Commission. The normal process is as follows. First, the Commission will hear a staff report, followed by a statement from the applicant. Then members of the public may speak, followed by any final statement from the applicant. Finally, the matter will be closed to the discussion among the Commission The commission shall then make a recommendation that will be forwarded to City Council. May I ask, Raul, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Raul Garcia, Planning and Inspections. So there are several changes to the agenda. If you can please bear with me while I go through these changes. The first one is item number 3. If that one can be moved to the public hearing section of the meeting. So item number 3 will be heard before item number 8. Again, that's item number 3 to be heard right before item number 8. Item 18 shall be moved to the forefront after the consent agenda. So that's item 18 to be moved to the front right after the consent agenda. Items 10 through 14 shall also be moved to the front after item 18. And those items are related, including the comp plan amendments and the related rezonings. So those items shall be heard in the following order. Item number 10 first, followed by item number 11, and then item number 13, followed by item number 12, and then followed by item number 14. So again, those group of items will be moved to the front after item 18 and shall be heard in that order that I just specified. Item number 5 is postponed for 2 weeks. Again, item number 5 postponed for 2 weeks. So those are all the agenda changes, and Mr. Chair, I'll be tracking as well and can assist you in the sequencing of the items today. Aside from that, there are several revised staff reports. That is all.
And Mr. Chair, if I might, I just did email all the commissioners the agenda order to keep it completely straight. Again, thank you for your with us as we moving sometimes around the agenda.
I don't ask you all to help me today on this reorganization of the agenda. So, approve the changes to the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Any members of the public signed up to speak for the public statement besides the items we're going to be hearing later on?
I do not believe we had any members signed up for call to the public.
Okay, thank you. All right. Regarding the consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve unless discuss?
Move to approve. Carlos Gallinar.
Second that.
Kerry Whalen.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. So let's start with item number 18. Is that correct, Raul?
Yes, sir.
Yes. All right. Good afternoon. Karina Brazgala with Planning and Inspections. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just pull up my presentation here. All right. And can everybody see that? Spoilers. That's up on your screens?
Yes, it's up, Karina.
Okay,
It
cool.
is.
All right, so item 18 is the Berryville right-of-way annexation agreement. The applicant is requesting that the city annex a 3.62 acre portion of Berryville Street that is currently county right-of-way located within the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction adjacent to District 5. The subject property is right next to John Hayes Street south of Montwood. And it'll be incorporated into John Hayes Street improvements to match the portion of John Hayes that already exists to the north. The area west of the subject property was annexed in 2015. It's primarily single-family detached residential, parks, drainage ponds interspersed, and then this section of John Hayes is right next to the East Side Sports Complex. And so here is the boundary line, and then in the corner there is the proposed cross-section. Again, this will match the ongoing street improvements to the north portion of John Hayes. And so the annexation is being requested to accommodate the improvements to Berryville and make sure that that entire portion of right-of-way lies within city limits. That way we can ensure consistent maintenance. Here's a photo of the subject property. So the paved section is the current John Hayes within city limits. The dirt, the kind of reddish dirt just to the left, is the Berryville right-of-way. Here, the annexation agreement imposes certain conditions that have to be fulfilled in order for us to accept the property. Most of these are pretty standard. We're limiting the use of the property for right-of-way purposes, talking about accommodation of stormwater runoff, and then owners always reimburse the city for costs related to notification and the emergency service districts. And this is the schedule of services also outlined. So upon annexation, all of these go into effect immediately. Again, this is a street, so most of these won't apply, but as soon as the street is built, improved, and dedicated, and then accepted, we would take over maintenance of that street, including any lighting or landscaping. With that, staff recommends approval of the Berryville right-of-way annexation agreement as it is in compliance with the city's adopted annexation policy. I'll take any questions at this time if you have them.
Any questions for staff? I suppose there's not a representative for this.
There should be. Yeah,
okay.
Somebody from the county should be on.
Okay, sorry about that.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Commission. Jose Landeros, the Director of Planning and Development for El Paso County. We're in agreement with all staff's comments. I'm available to answer any questions that the Commission may have.
Thank you, Mr. Landeros. For the applicant. We'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Uribe.
Second, Guzman.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 10.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair, members of the Commission. Kevin Smith with Planning Inspections. Before I pass it over to Karina, I'm going to say a couple words regarding these next 5 items, as they are similarly related. They're regarding 2 separate projects in the Mission Valley. So to give you a preview, while we're looking at just these items today, there's a lot of interest in the city of El Paso for economic development. And so there may be other items that we bring to you in the future to consider as we evaluate how we develop in the city. So the comprehensive plan was adopted in 2012, and it was looking at things from a certain lens back in that day. But since then, there have been a number of developments that have occurred, a number of factors that have us consider how we look at development, specifically in certain areas. In this area, there have been certain economic investments, significant ones that create a lot of interest in the area. In this area, in the Mission Valley, the Amazon facility, which is under construction, is creating a lot of interest about how we should develop, bringing jobs to the region. Also, there's been a slow transition away from agricultural uses and significant interest for other uses. And so that's something else that we should be considering. For these items, these next 5 items, we've had numerous public meetings working with District 6, her office, as well as we've been working with the Economic Development Department and also working with the developers. We've held numerous public meetings to get feedback, and we received some very valuable feedback, which was part of the conditions, at least for the rezoning items. So with that, I'll pass it over to Karina. As always, we have representatives from our department here to answer questions, as well as representatives from economic development. And then we also have the developers here as well. So with that, I'll pass it over to Karina.
All right. So Karina Brazgala, again, for the record. So item 10 will be standalone, and then we'll hear the two associated items afterwards. So this is, let me go ahead and share my presentation. Here we go. So item 10 is a proposed addendum to Plan El Paso to revise the policies and guidance for the O3 agriculture future land use designation. As Kevin pointed out, this is a little bit of an unusual item for you all. So again, some background, some context, right? Plan El Paso was adopted in 2012. That's where we pull our guidance for land development decisions. So what you and what staff is most often looking at in front of City Plan Commission is the future land use map, or the FLUME. And that provides guidance on the preferred general development character of land. That's what we use to make recommendations to this body and to City Council. So it's that little table you all see in the staff reports on zoning applications. We do not make recommendations on applications that are in conflict with this guidance. And so what we're in a situation here is we've seen some changes in what's happening, and we'd like to update the guidance so that it better reflects the current conditions. The O3 agriculture designation covers most of the farmland in the Mission Valley area. We're looking at Mission Valley specifically because of its proximity to the Isleta Port of Entry, or the Zaragoza Bridge, whichever you prefer to call it. The current guidance from Plan El Paso right now is to retain as much irrigated farmland as possible. And then where there are already development and rights in place, so if it's already zoned for residential or apartments, we would encourage clustered development and retain open space and land so that it can be farmed, in the future. What we've been seeing, so this would be the land we'd be looking at in this case. So it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it is important to make sure that the plan reflects what the wishes and vision for the city are. So what we've been seeing are some changing development trends, again, what Kevin touched on. So we've seen a lot of land that's no longer actively being farmed. Irrigation rights are being timed out. No one's using them anymore. There's been a lot of purchase of active farmland with the intent to develop, and a real increase in sort of border commerce related uses. So the proximity to that port of entry, the new Amazon fulfillment center. And then additionally, late last year, the city of Socorro, just outside of our boundaries, they did an update to their future land use map and a large scale rezoning. That's that section in purple that you can see in the map here. All of that is slated for industrial development in their plan. And so we're looking at stuff just on the other side of that and saying that should be farmland forever. And that's clearly not the case in Socorro or where the trends are going. So this is a little bit of the transition since 1997. So all the parcels in red have since been developed. So there's a natural conversion happening already of farmland into other uses. So in short, again, we're seeing a demand for these shipping and logistics uses, stuff related to the cross-border commerce. Plan El Paso does not address these possible land use changes. It wasn't a consideration at the time that it was drafted. And so we're proposing an amendment to provide updated guidance that would allow a transition to occur over time as it's needed in the area. So there was a public meeting held on May 6th, virtually in conjunction with District 6, and that included both of the civic associations in the area, along with about 30 members of the public. The conversation at that time, the neighborhood is very supportive in the conversion of this farmland. Most of them know that they can no longer actively farm. They're interested in selling. They want jobs in the area. But there was, of course, concerns about traffic and noise and other types of externalities that come with industrial development. And so we've addressed that, I think, in the revised policy suggestion. So here is the proposed addendum language. All the backup you received are basically justifications that we would add to the plan as backup. And then this would be the revised guidance moving forward. So we would still recommend clustered residential development where there are those types of development rights in place. However, we would also allow inactive farmland to be converted to commercial and industrial uses when there's a clear economic benefit to the city. And then because the area is in transition, we would ask that any development be carefully designed to protect remaining farmland and existing residential development. So that might include things like buffers, thoughtful design to mitigate the noise, the light, and then traffic impacts to the greatest extent possible. This concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, I have a couple of questions, if I may.
Sure.
Karina, first of all, great job on the presentation. Very thorough, very informative, and you provided a lot of information. I do have a couple of questions. I'm not 100% clear from your presentation which parcel of land we are being asked to change the flume from. So if you could make that clear, that's number one. Number two,
sure.
I'm also not clear what the other adjacent flume categories are adjacent to this particular parcel.
Sure. So that's why this one's a little bit different, is we are not doing a mass change to the flume. This is the land use guidance in the plan. So each individual property as it comes in, like the two on the later on the agenda, will still require a future land use map change, a rezoning if necessary. This would just allow us to convert land from O3 into a growth sector, basically. I'm saying that because I know you are familiar with the plan.
Sure.
So it's not for any specific piece of land at this time. It's just guidance for generally properties that are designated agriculture that are proximate to the port of entry.
So then just so I'm clear, the language is universal across that sort of region. And I don't disagree with you. I think that there is a consideration to be made that, hey, listen, farmland's not coming back. There should be some transition, right? I'm just trying to understand what that transition may be. And so what staff is recommending is that transition go from farmland to industrial/commercial, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but then any particular parcel would still have to come back to the City Planning Commission for a particular change, a very specific change in the flume.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, if I might as well add to that, Commissioner Guynar, that's exactly right. So this is just an overall policy change, and then for the individual projects, each individual parcel, they would have to come in with the associated flume amendment, which would be considered individually, and then, if, as Karina mentioned, a rezoning as well, if needed as well. So this is just changes to the language, and then Karina, a couple of the items are for two proposed flume amendments for a couple of cases.
Got it.
Any other questions for staff? I have the last portion of your presentation talked about amended guidance for the O3, and you talk about landscape buffers and native trees. Miss Angus wrote a letter for item 14 that really illustrates the need of green space. What I think could happen, unless we have some sort of ability to to prescribe green space and landscaping recommendations, is that the loss of all this irrigated area, the loss of this water, this becomes an arid heat island dust bin south of town. So I guess my question is there a way to amend that guidance to more green space, to create more water capture, to make sure that we don't create erosion and a heat island there? If we're going to start giving this area to industrial uses, should we not increase their landscape requirements? Try to ensure they're capturing the water and ponding, do low impact development, because if this is our opportunity to do that, I don't want to let that go and then say, several years down the road, wow, all of the concrete jungle down here where it used to be agriculture. So I guess I'm looking for staff's guidance as far as at what point does the CBC say, okay, this is our opportunity. We're giving away the agriculture, we're going industrial, but we're going to make sure that industrial is got not 10-foot landscape buffer, but it has true green space with some meat.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that, and I think we're sensitive to those concerns. The one thing to note, of course, is just that Plan El Paso is a guiding document, right? So it's not going to get too prescriptive in you need a 25-foot buffer, you need this many trees. That really is going to come into play when we're looking at the rezoning. That would be the place to put specific conditions in place. And so the guidance in Plan El Paso is just meant to kind of bulk up the sections of Title 20 that we already have in place, and make sure that, exactly to your point, that we're not just letting standard industrial go in here with no consideration for the context.
And I think if I might go along with that, with what Karina added is, we did update the landscape ordinance a couple of years ago that called for, I guess, a higher quality, a higher standard for landscaping to reduce that heat island effect. As we all know, it gets pretty toasty here in the city, and the more landscaping, the more green space that we can provide, the better. And then, as Karina mentioned, we look at each individual application that comes before us, and we consider it, and then as part of that, potentially add conditions, which include certain provisions such as a landscape buffer, such as see what the existing environment is, see what can be done to help mitigate the impact of the industrial uses.
All right, I appreciate it.
This is Commissioner Kerry Whalen. I didn't get a good look at that map, but it seemed that some of the land that we're talking about is surrounding the Rio Bosque wetlands. I know that's right there in this section. What do we know the right? So pretty much the bottom of the screen is the Rio Bosque wetlands in that map. Do we know the impact of has there been any kind of environmental study on what, having more industry in this area, how that will affect the wetlands as well as the surrounding area?
Mm-hmm. Again, those would be things we would look at for each specific development as they come in. This is just generally saying that in addition to converting farmland that's no longer needed into clustered residential, we can also allow for industrial uses because of the change in the area. If specific developments came in, we would need to look at those in the context of what are the surrounding uses, what are the environmental concerns, if the canal is active, if there are irrigation rights still in place, and then all of those would be considered at that time, whether it's then appropriate to actually change the future land use map designation, and likely the rezoning. A lot of this land is also zoned RF, ranch farm, so most of these would come before you all with 2 to 3 different development applications before anything actually got built.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. On to item number.
I believe it is me again, Karina Brezgala for the record. So as we just discussed, that's the major policy change. Here you're going to see two specific developments in this area that we are proposing So can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So item number 11 is a comprehensive plan amendment to modify the future land use map for property at 9641 North Loop Drive and 215 Sophia Place. The subject property is located near North Loop and Loop 375. The applicant is requesting to change the land use designation to accommodate a proposed industrial park. So this will affect approximately 230 acres of land. The subject property is currently zoned A2SC, and you all will hear the associated rezoning item immediately following my presentation. So for reference, again, right here's the future land use map. We have our open space sectors and our growth sectors. Here are the definitions we're looking at today. So it is currently O3 agriculture, applies to active farmland in the Rio Grande Valley. The 2021 addendum allows us to convert that into industrial uses when there's a need for it. So we would be proposing a switch to G7 industrial. This is appropriate for industrial parks, industrial uses, terminals, anything that's kind of a large area dominated by vehicles. Plan El Paso already offers guidance that when industrial uses become obsolete, there can be potential for mixed-use redevelopment. This is what's happening in some parts interior to the city, the development on Gateway. So you don't need to be worried that it's industrial now. If at any point the area no longer is needed for industrial, we would be able to convert that into a mixed-use development. Here is the current future land use map and the proposed change. So nearby properties with similar uses are already designated G7 industrial. You can see one just to the edge on the southwest there. And there is an established residential community, some surrounding O3 land, G3, G4, other kind of neighborhoods set up. So with that revised guidance, we would ask that any development be sensitive to those land uses and mitigate effects to the maximum extent possible. The land to the southeast on this map is called out as G5 Independent City. That is within the city of Socorro limits and is currently zoned for industrial uses. So with that, staff does recommend approval to modify the future land use map from O3 agriculture to G7 industrial, as it's in keeping with the proposed development for the property, similar in scale to nearby industrial development, and complies with the amended policies of Plan El Paso for both the O3 and G7 land use designations. This concludes my presentation, and I will pass it to Raul. There we go.
Thank you, Karina. I think everybody can see my screen. So, thank you. So again, this is Raul Garcia, Planning and Inspections. So this is the companion rezoning item to the Flume Amendment that Karina just presented. This is for property at 9641 North Loop and 215 Sophia, currently zoned A2 apartments. The request is to rezone the property to C4, commercial light industrial, for an industrial business park. This is the aerial of the property. It is vacant and consisting of approximately 230 acres. This is the current zoning map showing the current zoning designation, which again is A2 apartments with conditions, and the surrounding zoning districts, which include AO apartment office, PR1 planned residential, as well as C3 commercial. And again, this is located just south of Americas and east of North Loop. This is the proposed future land use map designation as G7 industrial. Again, this rezoning will be based on the approval of the Flume amendment just presented, again, to be proposed to go to G7 industrial. The conceptual plan that does show multiple warehousing and industrial business buildings, as well as parking for semi-tractor trailers, as well as regular parking. Access will be through the existing Camino Real there to the west that connects to North Loop. This project will be extending that right-of-way as a collector arterial, and it also proposes direct access to Americas Loop 375. This is a shot of the subject property. And these are the shots of the surrounding properties to the north. We do have, it is vacant and is zone C3 and AO. Beyond that is the Americas Loop 375. To the south, it is also vacant, and beyond that is the city of Socorro. To the west, we have the Mesa Drain and the existing single-family residential neighborhood, zone PR1. And to the east, it is vacant and zoned A2. Beyond that is I-10. So again, as Kevin mentioned in the beginning, us staff, in conjunction with the Office of District 7 City Representative, did have 2 virtual community meetings on April 22nd and May 6th of this year. It was with the surrounding community and specifically with that established neighborhood, single-family residential neighborhood abutting this proposed development. Questions were answered, their concerns were addressed, and information was provided as relating to the proposed comp plan amendment, the Flume amendment, and this particular rezoning. And as you will see, there are some conditions that are being imposed, and again, those many of those also resulted from these 2 committee meetings that we did hold with the community. Additionally, as required, notices were mailed to property owners within 300 feet of this subject property on May 21st. Additionally, those same notices were also mailed to all the property owners within that adjacent residential neighborhood, Placitas del Rey. As of today, the planning staff has received 1 letter in support of this request. So with that, again, we do recommend approval of this rezoning with the following conditions. Again, that a 20-foot landscape buffer be installed along the southwesterly property line adjacent to the Mesa Drain prior to any building, construction, or development located within 1,000 feet of the southwesterly property line. This southwesterly property line is that side that is next to the residential neighborhood, and again is as a result of some concerns and questions that the residents had there. And we felt this was a good buffer in order to go ahead and mitigate the impact of this development on that residential neighborhood. Condition number 2, that also a 20-foot landscape buffer be installed along the property lines adjacent to the existing nursing home facility. The existing nursing home facility is not part of this rezoning request. It will remain A2. So this landscape buffer will serve to mitigate the impact on this existing nursing home facility. And that buffer shall be installed prior to the issuance of any certificates of occupancy. Condition number 3 involves a 6-foot rock wall along that southwesterly property line. Again, the site next to the residential neighborhood. Again, to help serve and mitigate any noise or other potential negative impacts to that residential neighborhood. And again, that wall will shall be installed prior to any construction of any buildings within 1,000 feet of that property line. From what we've got from the applicants, the idea is to start more on the eastern side of the property and work their way west towards that residential neighborhood. So as that development gets closer to the neighborhood, the landscape buffer and this rock wall will kick in. Condition number 4, prior to issuance of any building permits, that a detailed site plan be submitted. So prior, again, this is the rezoning, and there's going to be a subdivision plat as well as subsequent to the subdivision plat. However, prior to any building permits, a detailed site plan will be required to be approved, and that site plan will be presented to the City Plan Commission, and we'll need to show all the mitigation measures that I'm discussing now in terms of these conditions being imposed on that property. And then finally, the final condition, that prior to issuance of any certificates of occupancy, that a 4-way stop be installed at the intersection of the southwesternmost access way and Camino del Rey. And again, that also came from the meetings we had with the community, where they did express some concern as far as the trucks exiting that property and utilizing Camino del Rey. So that 4-way stop design will help to mitigate the circulation of semi-tractor trailers going through Camino del Rey and allowing the residential neighborhood to enter and exit their residences there. So with that, staff again does recommend approval of the rezoning, as it is compatible with the proposed zoning districts surrounding the subject property, which include commercial, apartment, and residential. Further, staff's recommendation is based on the approval of the related comprehensive plan and flume amendment request of Plan El Paso, which is the city's adopted comprehensive plan. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Raul. Any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, I have a few. I'm sorry, you all. I do have some questions, if I may.
No problem.
There were a couple of questions. Any thought or conditions on limiting some of the uses on a C4? As you know, C4 is one of the heaviest commercial districts that you are going to find in the zoning code. Just curious to know if you all discussed those with the property owner.
Sure. So as far as the C4 zoning district that was discussed with the neighborhood, there was really no concerns that materialized as far as the C4. You know, but the applicant is on the call as well, but from what we've gone from them, you know, they're pretty set on this proposed use as far as an industrial business park. They're in it for the long term. So as far as the near future or even far out, we are looking at the proposed industrial park use for this property. But that was just something that, you know, was never brought up at the community meetings.
Okay, a couple of follow-up questions. How many people went to the community meeting?
There was about, I would say about 40, total of 40. It included, again, everybody there in the residential neighborhood, as well as representative of the surrounding neighborhood associations.
Okay, and then just one other question. I mean, I appreciate your comment about you working with the property owner, recognizing that the property owner wants to do industrial, but there's just no guarantee that that's going to happen, right? Once you rezone to C4, you are allowing every single use that is allowed within C4. So just want to make sure that that's clarified.
Sure. And I mean, when you look at the location of this property, it is on the corner of a freeway and a major arterial. There's two major, there's the collector arterial as well as a minor arterial a little bit more to the south going through this property. So again, it was just something that really didn't come up as a concern or point of specification in our meetings. Looking in the future, again, the location of this property and the other properties more to the east, they are more suited for heavy commercial, light industrial, considering their location along interstate and major arteries.
Commissioner Guyanar, I can't imagine use. So, you know, if they did do anything differently, it would probably be less impactful than, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I appreciate the staff working with the applicant to put as many conditions as they did do. I think it's a good thing. Thank you, Raul.
You're welcome.
Hey, Raul, that's a generalized site plan, right? That's not a detailed site plan.
That is correct, Chair. It is purely conceptual. Again, I mean, the applicant can expand as far as how close is this to the final product, but prior to any building permits, a binding detailed site plan will be required.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
Yes, I have a question if I may.
Oh, yes. Is this?
Yeah, on that, this is Jose Reyes. That layout, that's a pretty big area. Just, you know, we're going to be handling.
Commissioner Reyes, you're, it's hard to hear you.
Okay, 1 second. I apologize. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. On that layout, you know, looking at that layout, there's a lot of non-pervious areas, you know, on this whole layout. Do they already know where how they're gonna handle the runoff from that whole property development?
Yeah. So those details, again, as I mentioned previously, there is a plat that's going to have to be come in and approved and presented to the City Plan Commission, as well as a detailed site plan. Those details will be shown and addressed at that stage. In any case, just like any other development, they will have to comply with our city's landscaping and grading and drainage requirements. But again, this is purely a conceptual plan. Those specific details and designs will be finalized, reviewed, and approved, again, as part of that planning stage and the detailed site plan presentation to CPC as well.
Also, you're showing access to Loop 75. Is that part of this? Is that going to be part of this plat?
Yes, sir. Yes, they will have to establish proper access. So those connections will be part of the subdivision plan that subsequently will be coming in.
You're going to have a lot of heavy truck traffic coming in and out of this subdivision. And I think you mentioned it can be accessing North Loop. Also, I mean, is there some type of study been showing how the areas can be impacted by all the truck traffic coming in and out?
Yes, sir. So there was a traffic study conducted. And as far as mitigation measures that came out of that study, include a deceleration lane along Americas, again, to address the egress and ingress of heavy trucks on Americas and Loop 375. Again, on Camino del Rey, we are imposing the four-way stop condition to control the truck traffic there, mixing in with the residential traffic. And also, there's been a warrant analysis. Again, the applicant can expand on this, but there has been a warrant analysis for a future light on the corner of North Loop and Camino del Rey that, again, would go towards mitigating the traffic impact regarding this development.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
If I might,
go ahead.
Okay, just if I might, to the commissioner, just a reminder that this is for the rezoning of it. There are other steps that will come down the road. So the detailed site plan and the subdivision. So just want to remind the commissioners of those items that will come in the future.
I have a question. Yes, I understand that we're going to see a detailed site development plan, which someone will have invested quite a bit of money into. But at this, we're looking at even a conceptual site plan, and we're all recognizing that it seems to be lacking in landscaping and water capture and other issues. Is there not now where we can start setting conditions to say, you know, upon our approval of the rezoning, we want to see an increase in landscaping at this stage? Or
yeah, you were cutting out a little bit, Mr. Chair, but I think I got the gist of your comments. So again, this development is going to have to comply with the landscaping ordinance, which under the C4 requires you take the area minus the buildings and 15% of what's left over. That's the amount of area that is required for landscaping. And when you have a big property like this, you know, we are talking about a considerable amount of landscaping that will be required. Included in that is the landscape buffers that are required abutting the residential and the nursing home areas. And again, those details will be coming in as part of the subdivision plan, the detailed site plan, and also the building permits. But again, considering the size of this property and the way our landscape calculations are set up for commercial properties, there is going to be considerable landscaping as part of this development.
Commissioner Carrie Whalen, I had a question about I see the Mesa Spur drain goes through this property. How will that be affected, and how will it be, any effect on that be mitigated?
Sure. So the Mesa Spur drain is the lateral there that runs north-south, correct, between the residential neighborhood and this property. That really cannot be touched. It is under ownership of the County Water Improvement District. There is the existing crossing that is already there, which is going to remain and be utilized along Camino del Rey, but that is there and is existing. Other than that, the wall and the landscaping, all that will have to be installed within the subject properties, within the applicant's property. Again, anything beyond that is just, at this point, is not allowed by the County Water Improvement District.
Well, Mr. Garcia, I'm referring to, it looks like there's a spur drain. I can see it on Google Maps, but I can see it at the bottom of this map here that you're showing that is below building. It's kind of coming out of the map.
I see it. Yeah, it's located a little bit more to the east and kind of dead ends there to the middle of the property. So that's, and again, the applicant can expand, but based on the current utilization of that lateral, I'm not sure if it's fully being utilized, but that's something I believe the applicants are looking at to purchase and take over, potentially working with the County Water Improvement District. If it is public, if it's private, working with the private property owners, since the watering rights, irrigation rights in this area have pretty much are null. So, and again, the applicant can expand on that, but I think that is something they are working on, and again, will be finalized as part of the subdivision plan.
We have a big agenda, so let's, the applicant would be able to answer any other questions that we have. So if you all are okay, let's move on to hear from the applicant, please. Start.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Kyle Valley with Majestic Realty, representing the applicant and developer and landowner, Ben Ivy and family. Thank you, everyone, for hearing this item and for staff's reports, both from Karina and Raul. We're very excited at the prospects of bringing this project, obviously subject to the zoning coming in place. Happy to touch on any question that someone has directly. I have a few notes that might have needed some attention or comment from myself. Maybe I'll touch on a couple of those, and those that I don't touch on, please feel free to ask whatever questions you'd like. We'll touch on the last comment first, the Mesa Spur drain. You'll see that it's actually grayed out on this site plan to be specific. So that was a great catch and something that we're very cognizant of. We're working with the appropriate authority right now to obtain fee simple title ownership to it. And that process has been started, but we're very aware that we have to come to a resolution if we want to incorporate that into our development. Otherwise, we're going to have to draft and plan around it. But again, this conceptual site plan shows a midway civil engineering effort. There was also a comment regarding the coverage, and if we had gotten to a point where we know what our drainage capacity is, we've almost fully reached the end of our drainage analysis and civil engineering efforts in that regard, and we've lost about maybe 8% of coverage or total building area, having to cut some buildings back and expand the regional ponds. There's about 4 separate ponds that account for all of our drainage here. Another comment had to do with the landscape setback and whether that had been incorporated into some of our plans. It has since been. Again, this being the conceptual site plan that had been presented to the city on the front end, it's grossly the same. But again, the areas that we've accepted and understand the conditions regarding setbacks were in full agreement with city, with staff's recommendations that came as a result of those public meetings and discussions in and amongst staff and developer. So we do have those incorporated into our design, plan on incorporating and adhering to all of these. But again, we're very excited about bringing the project, and if there were any other comments that I missed to touch on or would like to ask directly, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions?
I do have this is Jose Reyes. I do have a couple of questions on those access points to Loop 75. Have you already coordinated with TxDOT at all? If they allow you connecting at those locations?
Thank you. That was one of the other points you had brought up earlier. Those both locations have been preliminarily designed and conceptually approved by TxDOT through initial reviews. We've had numerous discussions with staff and TxDOT, with TxDOT directly, streets and maintenance and the like, to understand those. Raul had commented that there were decel lanes on both of those entries and accel lanes on both of those. So we plan on adhering to everything that's been approved, but it seemed that TxDOT is extremely on board in recommending these locations.
Great. One last question. That bridge, or that, I guess, a culvert crossing there at the Mesa Spur Drain, have you coordinated with them at all yet? Because I'm concerned that, you have a lot of heavy truck traffic over top of that culvert. Did you already kind of discuss that with them? Make sure they're going to allow you to have that much truck traffic over that culvert?
So I want to make sure that we're touching on there's two separate comments here. Earlier, Mesa Spur Drain was brought up, and it's the Mesa Spur Drain going in between building 6 and building 3, let's say. And then we have the drain that's in between the south or west side of our property and the residence. Are we talking about the one on the top side of the residential neighborhood connecting our property to North Loop?
Yes, that one.
Thank you. Yeah. So we believe that the full width right-of-way that's required to improve Camino del Rey to its full width that we are being asked to improve it is already there and existing. Obviously, all the engineering efforts will have to ensure that traffic or that load can be accepted by its existing condition. I don't know whether we have gotten to that point in determining that. I would like to think off the top of my head that it would not have been built to an inferior position, but that's obviously something we should check out.
Yeah, thank you.
And Mr. Valley, in the backup, there was the stormwater utility. They seem to have several issues regarding the dam uphill from this development and to it. Is that something you all have plans to coordinate with them or solve the issue that they have? Because where they say that they need access to that because of the silt buildup. Something you all working on?
Sure. So I think there's two ways to address that. One, while we are representing the landowner, we really only have control of the land that we have within the bounds of this site. If there's a access easement that we can accommodate in order to get access there through our site, or help work with the current landowner to establish access through their site, we're obviously want to be good neighbors and help accommodate where we can. You can see at the bottom right of our screen in the site plan here, there's a proposed drive that dovetails right into the end, although that's a pretty steep lip to get into that basin from our property. It would most likely make more sense to utilize the existing right-of-way and access from Resource Drive, I believe was dedicated in place for those reasons. But where we can be good neighbors, we obviously want to be.
Do you mean Research Drive?
Excuse me. Research Drive, thank you.
And that's one of the things they mentioned is that is not an improved road, so they're unable to use that. I would just recommend you all coordinating that because that sounds like it could be a potential issue. The thing they mentioned is water harvest, preserving green space, all those other issues about. I would just encourage development and trying to get as much green space and capture water capture as you can. Submit your detailed site development. Just a suggestion.
Noted.
And if I think to the chair, again, a lot of these comments like the stormwater, the El Paso Water Utilities is part of our subdivisions, and they would definitely be a key player in this to make sure all these comments are addressed prior to the subdivision being brought forward for consideration.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicants? If not, this is a public hearing, so is there, I know we have at least one person signed up. Ms. Fabiola Campos Lopez, are you there? Star 6 to unmute yourself.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, City Planning Commissioners and Planning Department staff. My name is Fabiola Campos Lopez, President of Corridor 20 Civic Association. Thank you for the opportunity to make my comments for this rezoning case on Ivy's land. Corridor 20 Civic Association supports responsible growth in the Valley area, and it focuses its mission primarily on ensuring the neighborhood and its residents' quality of life is maintained and or improved with the most negligible impact from the change being proposed. The area in question is in rapid evolving pace due to the nearby International Port of Entry and the nearby distribution business coming soon. If you look at the bigger picture, the area is already mostly zoned commercial and manufacturing, with some ranch farm and the Ranchos del Rey residential neighborhood. Thank you to Planning Department and the City Rep District 6 for a couple of community meetings programmed for the public to be thoroughly informed. The applicant presented their development proposal, heard the community concerns and questions, and on a second meeting, the applicant presented a modified development proposal to meet as much as possible the community request and the cause that least impact to the residential area nearby. A main point to this rezoning case is to acknowledge that the applicant is one of the first ones to develop land in this sector, but not doubt that rapidly some other commercial developments will join him with the same type of rezoning proposals. I'm saying this because the impact to the residential area could be considered short-term, and undoubtedly other roads will start being created and open to lessen the traffic that will pass in front of the residential area at this early stage. And it adheres right to clarify the Americas and Camino del Rey roads are part of the major thoroughfare plan, so they're going to continue to be developed as such. Also, if we consider that the 200-acre land in question is currently zoned for apartments, it was zoned from farm, it's no longer farming land. That change was made on 1979. So we will agree that the traffic and other collateral impact could be greater and more disruptive to the area if according to the conditions placed on that imposed on that old or current apartment zone, is to build no more than 1,500. Knowing developers, they will go with 1,499. So if we create a multiplied by the number of cars that those 1,499 households will be handling, it's approximately more than 300 plus cars, plus almost 4,500 people living in that area. So for that reason, I think that it is better for industrial development rezone than stay with the apartment, considering that how much it's going to be affected the people that live surrounded. At this point, Corridor 20 Civic Association concur with Planning Department's approval recommendation that includes a detailed site plan before going to be platted or the subdivision process, and with all the conditions imposed to the rezoning case. Thank you all for your attention, and El Paso looks forward to the area growth and progress for the benefit of our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Campos Lopez. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak? Star 6.
I believe Ms. Sylvia Carrion may be online to speak as well.
Yes, this is Sylvia Carrion. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Sylvia Carrion, Valley Civic Association. I was present at 2 of the virtual presentations of this project on Ivy properties, and I'm in support of the rezoning change to accommodate the project for commercial industrial park. I took pictures of the presentation and had a meeting with my board members and others, and after discussing the pros and cons, it was voted unanimously by our membership in support of the project. The reason is that the original zone is for apartment complexes, and we feel there are enough of these up and down North Loop already in and in around the surrounding areas in the Mission Valley planning area. What our community needs is projects that will afford employment opportunities that will pay good salaries with benefits to their employees. I pray this will be the case. As a retired deputy sheriff, I used to patrol this area connecting the city with the county line and familiar with this area. I respect very much the feelings and opinions of the residents at the Placita del Rey, and I hope they will understand our position in support of this project. This complex at Camino del Rey has been there for over 20 years and has been surrounded by farmland on all 4 sides. As the city began to grow, many of the farmers could or would not continue their farm work and begin to sell their land, which most of it went to commercial endeavor. This complex is now surrounded by numerous commercial buildings, new housing, apartment complex, and sale of land to commercial endeavor. I believe that Mr. Kyle Valley is respected of the opinions of these residents and will work to enhance his projects to plan as such. I thank you all for your time and attention, and I do, hopefully, if you all vote in favor to rezone this particular area, I will submit a formal letter to the planning division of our support. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public that would like to speak? Star 6 to unmute yourself. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion or further discussion.
To Mr. Chair, if I might, if you can take items 11 and 13, those have been presented for consideration.
Right. So the motion would be 11 and 13.
Yes, please.
Discussion and or motion.
Motion to approve item 11 and 13, Guzman.
Second, Kerry Whalen.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
None opposed. Motion passes. Thank you. On to items number 12 and 14 together, Kevin.
Yes, please. 12 and 14, please.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Karina Brasgala again. Good afternoon. Item 12 is PLCC 2102. This is a comprehensive plan amendment to modify the future land use map. I'll go through this quickly because much of the information is the same. So this is the subject property located at 551 Inglewood. The applicant is requesting to change the future land use map designation to accommodate an expansion of the shipping and distribution center currently located to the north. So this amendment will affect approximately 20 acres of land. The subject property is currently zoned RF and we'll hear the associated rezoning immediately after. So through these, here's the change again. So O3 agriculture, the addendum allows for conversion into industrial uses. We would be proposing G7 industrial, appropriate for vehicle and vehicle-oriented and industrial uses. the property. Here's the future land use map and the proposed change. With that, staff recommends approval to modify the future land use map from O3 agriculture to G7 industrial. It's in keeping with the proposed development and nearby industrial development along North Loop, Americas, and I-10. In addition, it complies with the amended policies in Plan El Paso for both the O3 and G7 land use designation. And then we'll go over to Raul, and then we can hear these items together.
Okay, so once again, Raul Garcia, Planning Inspection. Again, this is a rezoning item for property located at 551 Inglewood Drive. The request is to go from the existing Ranch Farm RF district to C4 Commercial Light Industrial for a proposed trucking and shipping facility. This is the area of the property, which does consist approximately of 19.8 acres in size. Primary access is from Inglewood. However, as you'll see, one of the conditions being proposed is to restrict semi-tractor trailer access from Inglewood. So that semi-truck trailer access will be from the property also owned by this same applicant, located there to the north, the existing trucking facility, which does front directly off of North Loop. So again, semi-tractor trailers will be able to access from North Loop through that property over a proposed lateral crossing onto this subject property. Other than that, employees and regular vehicle access will be proposed from Inglewood Drive. This is a current zoning map, which shows the existing Ranch Farm zoning district with the surrounding zoning districts, which include Ranch Farm, M2 manufacturing, as well as C4 commercial. This is the future land use map, which does reflect the proposed G7 industrial designation, part of this previous presentation. And again, one of the conditions on this property, as well as a detailed site plan, the applicant has decided to go ahead and submit the official, the binding detailed site plan. So this is an official binding detailed site plan, which does show approximately 60,000 square feet of warehouse building, as well as semi-tractor trailer parking, and again, employee and regular vehicle parking. The site plan also shows a 10-foot landscape buffer along the entire perimeter of the property. It also reflects a 6-foot masonry wall along the easterly, the westerly, and the northerly property lines. Again, a 6-foot masonry wall will be around the property, with exception to the side fronting on Inglewood, but all other sides will have a 6-foot masonry wall around it. And again, as far as access, there is that one commercial access off of Inglewood, which will serve employees and regular type vehicles. Again, semi-tractor trailers will be accessing from the property to the north that fronts off of North Loop, and will be crossing over this property through the proposed bridge crossing over the lateral going into this property, which is shown there to the north, kind of to the northwest. That is the proposed location of the lateral crossing. And again, that'll also, there's 2 barriers along the front side of the portion close to Inglewood. Those barriers are to serve and control semi-tractor trailer movement within the property, again, being in line with the restriction of tractor trailer access from Inglewood. So those barriers will help to control that, and so the development is in line with that restriction. This is a shot of the subject property. It's currently vacant. The surrounding properties to the north, it's the existing trucking facility owned by the same applicant, which is zone C4. To the south, it is vacant, zoned ranch farm. To the west, also vacant, also zoned ranch farm. And to the east, there's two single-family home properties, which are zoned ranch, RF ranch farm. As far as public input, planning staff, in conjunction with District 6 City Representative, did have one community meeting, which was held on May 13th of 2021. Notices were sent to, in terms of this community meeting, notices were sent to all property owners within 500 feet, as well as to the applicable neighborhood associations, which were also part of that meeting. Public notices were mailed to property owners within 300 feet on May 21st. And as of yesterday, staff has received 2 emails of commentary from the resident there adjacent to this property, and which are part of the revised backup. So with that, staff does recommend approval of this rezoning request with the following condition. Again, that access for semi-trailer trucks and cabs be prohibited to and from Inglewood Drive, that a 10-foot landscape buffer be installed along the property lines adjacent to any residential or apartment zone districts prior to the issuance of any certificates of occupancy. 3, that the Juan de Herrera lateral crossing, the bridge crossing across the lateral, be constructed prior to issuance of any building permits. And 4th, the last one, that a detailed site plan be submitted prior to any building permits. And again, the site plan that was just shown, that is the official binding detailed site plan, which will satisfy that condition. And that site plan does meet all the requirements of section 2004-150, so staff is also recommending approval of that detailed site plan. Again, these recommendations are based on the compatibility of the proposed zoning district with the surrounding commercial, manufacturing, and ranch farm districts in the immediate area. Further, staff's recommendation is based on the approval of the related comprehensive plan and FUM amendment request of Plan El Paso, the city's comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Raul. Any questions for staff? We hear from the applicant, please. Star 6 to unmute yourself.
Can you all hear me? This is Isaac Rodriguez with H. Terra.
Yes, we can hear you, but not well. Do you concur with all staff comments?
Yeah, we concur with all staff comments. Just to add to the comments that Mr. Garcia mentioned, we do have on-site ponding on there. That purple area that was in between the landscape and the parking, that's also shallow on-site ponding, so it's going to be landscaped as well. But it'll also serve to hold all the retention on site.
Great. Excellent. Any questions for the applicant? I have one. That crossing across the lateral, is that something for, sort of a heavy truck use? It's going to have to be some pretty major engineering, I imagine.
Yes, that's correct. And we've already began coordination with El Paso County Water Improvement District on that crossing. It will be designed to handle the H20 traffic loading. So we're currently working with them on that.
Okay.
I do have one question on that on-site ponding. I'm assuming that the groundwater in this area is pretty high, pretty shallow. If y'all examine that, make sure you're not gonna I think you can be within 2 feet of the groundwater. Is that correct?
It's a little bit deeper than that, but it's shallow ponding. We have about 3 feet of ponding in that entire area, which is why we kind of had to separate it there on the perimeter and spread it out in that direction. But yes, sir, to answer your question, we've done some geotechnical reports, and we have the depth of that groundwater.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if that whole purple area is going to be a green area, I think you all have done a great job, addressing some of the concerns. I know Ms. Angus from across the street had sent a letter in support, but also, hoping for more of a buffer and green space. It looks like maybe you all accommodated that. So,
yes, sir.
Questions for the applicant? If not, I'll go ahead.
I actually had a question. I think it's for Mr. Garcia. This is Commissioner Kerry Wayland. You know, this property is, unlike the last one, it's really surrounded by a lot of small farms that seem to be staying, at least in the near future, agricultural. Do we know how this is going to, you know, the environmental effects? Is how it's going to affect those other small agricultural plots?
Yeah. So again, in line with the changes that are happening in this area that were presented as part of the comp plan and the Flume Amendment, many of these properties are not being farmed or not truly being utilized as agricultural. There's some water irrigation rights that either have been sold or about to be sold. So, and again, with the location of the manufacturing and e-commerce facilities in the area, this is one of the first ones coming in, and we definitely foresee those other, especially vacant properties, to follow suit. But in terms of current conditions, what we've heard from property owners in the area, really agriculture uses are really not being fully utilized for these properties.
And I might add that, you know, with the notifications, that if there was anybody concerned, that they would have, you know, to the letter and sent us some sort of commentary, I would imagine.
That's correct. They're well within the 300-foot notification buffer.
Thank you.
Any other discussions? Otherwise, it's a public hearing. If there's anyone signed up, unmute yourself. I know Ms. Campos Lopez was signed up for this one as well.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello again, City Planning Commissioners and Planning Department staff. For the record, my name is Fabiola Campos Lopez. I represent Corridor 20 Civic Association. Thank you for this opportunity. The development proposed for the area, we think it's adequate. The only concern in this case is that Inglewood continues to be inadequate to hold heavy traffic. It is more called like an access road right now because of the narrow width that it has. Corridor 20 Civic Association understands that this is the recent planning department imposed a condition to this case to prevent possible traders going in and out of the property into Inglewood until other property owners in the area start developing their land and help out with the effort and start widening the street to feed for heavier traffic. Before this meeting, my understanding with a staff report and several talks to Mr. Garcia, now I saw that he mentioned that they are proposing some barriers inside the property because I thought that the condition is good, but how are we gonna make them comply with it if there's nothing that they will prevent the trailers to go in and out from Inglewood? If the barrier will be imposed as a condition, that's my question, and I hope it does. Because my suggestion at this point was going to be, and it still is, if the barrier cannot be imposed, placing a metal arc with its height less than the height of an 18-wheeler, that will prevent them from using Inglewood until the street is adequate for that type of traffic. It could be locked in the bottom and removable in case of an emergency evacuation is needed. I don't know if Mr. Raul can answer me that question, if the barriers will be a condition because of compliance. How are we going to make them comply if there's not going to be security there?
Sure, Ms. Lopez. So at this point, it is the specific location of those concrete barriers is not a condition. However, they are being shown on the site plan. It's those little, they're black horizontal markings close to Inglewood, in between the proposed building and the landscape area. So they are part of the detailed site plan. And again, any construction, once that construction comes in and building permits are submitted, obviously it's going to have to fully comply with this detailed site plan. So if they're showing on this detailed site plan, that means that they will have to show them on the building permits. They will have to be there. Otherwise, the building permits will not be approved. But obviously, the commission can impose any further or additional conditions as they wish suitable.
Yeah, because my concern at this moment, or our concern for the Corridor 20 Civic Association, is that what they're showing right now, it's a conceptual plan. If it's not set, they're gonna come back, and if it's not written anywhere on the paperwork, it might be forgotten, or it's on the right for the property owner that if it's in a condition, they're gonna comply with it. So I just wanted to make, hopefully the commissioner see my point, and see it not only it's for the benefit of the future community that uses, especially the residential neighbors that live there, that if Inglewood is just an access road, and then bringing in more heavy traffic, 18-wheelers, how this plan is gonna make them comply. Rather than that, we concur with planning department, especially, and hopefully you can consider commissioners placing the barriers as a condition for this plan. So make it happy everywhere. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Campos Lopez. That was actually one of my questions too, and I don't know what that looks like. What does an elevation of these barriers look like?
From pictures that were sent to me by the applicant, they're similar to the ones you see along I-10 when there's construction. About 3 foot high, very heavy, large concrete barriers that are set up along construction projects along the freeway. It's going to be very similar to those.
I don't know. That doesn't seem like much of a barrier to me if they chose to remove those. So I would be, I would be inclined to want something a little more substantial. But I guess if there are any more members of the public that would like to speak, *6 to unmute yourself.
I believe also Ms. Carrion would like to speak. And just for clarification, this is a detailed site plan, so this plan here is binding. So it is not a conceptual. So I think Ms. Carrion wants to speak.
*6 to unmute yourself, please.
Can you hear me, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. On the Inglewood project, we are also in support of it. I met Mr. Lopez about a couple of years ago in reference to another issue where he had his P&H Enterprise. He has a beautiful entrance on there. You can't see it from North Loop, but as you go into his Bremerton, you can see the waterfall and the landscaping that he has out there. He showed us around the property, and he has the state of the arts as far as the diesels and his warning signs and everything so beautiful. I was very impressed with his care about his diesel and his traffic. I did not know at this point that the entrance was going to be through North Loop only and not through Inglewood. I thought maybe Inglewood. So this one's even a better plan. And so the only thing that I have when they do bring the situation at hand, that I also agree with Ms. Campos Lopez that Inglewood is extremely too narrow for any kind of truckers. But why I'm telling you this is because I've been there several times, even as early as last week, and there are 18-wheelers already tracking that fare from the North Loop to Alameda. And there's a business right off of Alameda coming into Inglewood off of Nevada that deals with trucks that size. So the danger of those trucks is there because they do have to swerve around a little corner, and it's when they have to meet another car, somebody has to give way before they go together. So I think we did speak to Mr. Lopez about the fact that maybe he could convince the other owners on the other side to kind of work as a whole, as neighbors, so to speak, and come with a plan to widen Inglewood to accommodate the traffic between North Loop and Alameda, because that little road is being used for that purpose. So it's a beautiful concept. I love it, and we support it. Like I said, I like his the way he conducts his business with his truckers, and so it looks like a good plan. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to speak? Star 6 to unmute yourself. Otherwise, entertain discussion or motion. I don't know. Try to look besides those sort of bollards. There are movable barriers that are seen on the highway, but I think those are easily movable. So I don't know. A suggestion for discussion, I guess.
I have a question. Is this item 12 and 14?
Yes.
So I move to approve item 12 and 14.
Okay, a second. I'm sorry, I was looking for a second. I didn't mean to say second.
Just for clarity, was that for items 12 and 14?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item number 4, Enchanted Hills, Unit 6.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Commission. David Samaniego with Planning and Inspections. You should see the presentation on your screen now. Item number 4 on the agenda is Enchanted Hills Unit 6, a major final application. This development is located east of Interstate 10 and north of Trans Mountain in far west El Paso. And it is located within the West Side Impact Fee Service Area. This is the plat superimposed on the aerial map. The applicant is proposing to subdivide 128.883 acres of land within the city of El Paso into 399 single-family residential lots, 1 school site, 3 drainage ponds, and 1 private open space area. Access to the subdivision is proposed from Enchanted Retreat Drive, Enchanted Peace Lane, Wrestler Drive, and Northwestern Drive. And finally, this development is being reviewed under the former subdivision code. This is plat 1 of 4, and this is being shown from west to east. Plat number 2. Third plat. The final plat. This is the Enchanted Hills land study. The subdivision lies within and is in conformance with the Enchanted Hills land study that was approved in 2008. The approximate location of the subdivision is outlined in red. This application was previously approved by the Commission on October 15th of 2020 on a major preliminary basis. The current major final application is in conformance with the approved preliminary plat. And the applicant is also requesting the following 3 modification requests. The first is for cul-de-sac streets pursuant to section 19.16.020.d. This is to allow cul-de-sac length greater than 750 feet. The second is to street names per section 19.16.040.a. This is to allow street names in excess of 13 characters for the following street names. And the final exception is for street length, and this is pursuant to section 19.16.090.b, and this is to allow for block length in excess of 1,500 feet for Enchanted Spirit Drive. As a reminder, the requests for the street names, block length, and cul-de-sac length were previously approved by the Commission on October 15, 2020 as part of the major preliminary application. The applicant has shown evidence of topographical restraints satisfying the requirements for request number 1 for cul-de-sac streets and for number 3 for block lanes. In addition, they have also provided street names in character with other street names that have previously been approved within the Enchanted Hills land study. And with that, staff recommends approval of Enchanted Hills Unit 6 on a major final basis and approval of the modification request subject to the following condition: that the City Plan Commission require the applicant landscape the rear of all double frontage lots pursuant to section 19.16.080.d of the former subdivision code. And this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Samaniego. Any questions for staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please? Star 6.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Conrad Conde with Conde Incorporated. We do concur with all staff's comments.
Thank you. May I ask, what do those ponds look like? Are they deep and have rock walls around them, or?
That is correct. The amount of runoff to take care of everything, that is correct. It needs to be deep enough, and they are protected with rock walls.
Right. Not a good opportunity for a park pond. There's some serious water you're taking in, I assume.
That is correct as well.
Any other questions for the applicant? Comments? Okay, thank you. I'll entertain the motion.
I do have one question. This is Jose Reyes. Did you have to do any coordination with the Corps of Engineers or any type of 404 permit for any of those arroyos that are running down to that area?
That is correct. We've already got that obtained and approved.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for further discussion. Motion out there?
Move to approve, y'all. Carlos Gallinato.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 6.
Good afternoon. If I'll have one moment just to bring up the presentation. One moment. Let me know when everybody can see the presentation on the screen.
Okay, we can see George.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairs and member of the Commission. George Olmos with Planning and Inspections. This item is Boyd's Place. This is a major application, a major combination application. This development is located within the city of El Paso, north of Sunset Road and west of Donovan Drive. Access to the subdivision will be from both Sunset Road and Emery Road. And this application is being reviewed under the current subdivision code. This slide shows the proposed final plat on the aerial picture. The applicant is proposing to subdivide 2.5927 acres of land into one residential single-family lot. Here we see the preliminary plat. Here we have the final plat. The applicant is requesting two exception requests, which are as follows. To waive 5 feet of roadway to Sunset Road, which is classified as a residential collector road, and to waive 4 feet of roadway to Emery Road, a local residential road. Under section 19.10.050A, the City Plan Commission may waive such requirements to provide rights-of-way or street improvements to adjacent substandard roads. The applicant is applying for the waiver under section 1.A which states that 50% of the lots within a quarter mile of the proposed development have already been developed, and that the existing street improvements are in character with the neighborhood. The applicant does satisfy the criteria under section 19.10.050A. Staff recommends approval of Boyd's Place on a major combination basis and recommends approval of the exception request. This concludes my presentation, and I'll take any questions right now.
Thank you, Mr. Olmos. Any questions for staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please? Star 6 to unmute yourself. Star 6 to unmute yourself, please.
The applicant is here for item 6, Boyd's Place. Star 6 to mute your phone, please. Mr. Chair, it appears that the applicant is not present.
I guess they concur with your comments, Mr. Olmos. Well, I guess we could just entertain a motion or further discussion. Or a motion, please. I beg you, someone.
I move to approve Carrie Wayland approve the exception as well.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kano subdivision, SUSU 21-51.
Okay, can everyone see my presentation?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, good afternoon. Emily Diaz-Melendez with Planning and Inspections. Item number 7 is Cano subdivision, a major combination application. The proposed subdivision is located north of Horizon Boulevard and east of Peyton Drive, and it is located in the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. The applicant is proposing to subdivide 0.4636 acres into 2 single-family residential lots, each approximately 10,000 square feet in size. Access to the subdivision will be from Zabel Lane. There are currently residential structures on each lot, and those structures will remain. This is the preliminary plat and the final plat. And with that, staff recommends approval of Cano subdivision on a major combination basis. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant? Star 6 to unmute yourself, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Do you concur with all staff comments?
This is Marvin Gomez with GRV, and we concur with all the staff comments.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? For the applicant? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second, Carrie Wayland.
Who made the?
Jose Reyes, a motion to approve.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3, Green Acres subdivision replat A.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Commission. David Samaniego with Planning and Inspections. You should see the presentation on your screen now. Item number 3 on the agenda is Green Acres Subdivision Replat A, a re-subdivision final application. This development is located south of Aircraft Road and west of Donovan Drive. This is the plat superimposed on the aerial map. The applicant is proposing to subdivide 27.01 acres of vacant land within the city of El Paso into 65 single-family residential lots, one apartment site containing 124 apartment units, 2 stormwater pond sites, and 1 2-acre stormwater park pond site. The reason for the replat is to revise lot numbers, modify the lot layout, and the dedication of the following new streets: Patricia Elena Place, Merced Court, and Will Jordan Place. Access to the subdivision is proposed from Sorrell Drive, Oleaster Drive, and Arcraft Road. And finally, this development is being reviewed under the current subdivision code. This is the final plat. Previous application, Suzu 20-69 Green Acres Subdivision Replat A, was approved on a re-subdivision preliminary basis on November 19th of 2020, subject to the condition that a traffic impact analysis be approved prior to the recording of the subdivision plat. The re-subdivision application is in conformance with the approved preliminary plat, and since then, a TIA has been approved by the Streets and Maintenance Department. With that, staff recommends approval of Green Acres Subdivision Replat A on a re-subdivision basis, re-subdivision final basis, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Samaniego. Any questions for staff?
Yes, Mr. Samaniego. This is Commissioner Kerry Whalen. What's at the top? Well, I don't know where, depending on the map, but okay, it's the top left corner of
the white area?
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir. That's a 124 apartment unit. And that DSDP was previously approved in December by the commission. I failed to mention that for that site. So that's an apartment complex unit.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did they do park fees and park dedication, or, I mean, that's 2 acres for quite a lot of units, it seems.
Right. Let me check on that really quick for you.
Sorry, that's a trick question. I didn't mean to get you.
No, it is in the staff report. I just need to pull that up myself. It'll be the attachment number 4 is the park. Refers to the parks.
Yes.
Let me just look at that myself.
The purple just sort of blends in. Those are park ponds as well. They blend into the regular.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. So I think the reason for the actual park pond site was the need for the actual park space. So yeah, they're dedicating the 2-acre park, and that's to satisfy the park requirement.
And then they have another like acre of sort of park pond. Okay, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please? Star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hello,
Hello?
Hello, this is Mark Medina with Moreno Cardenas. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. We are in agreement with the staff's comments and recommendations.
Great. Any questions for the applicant? If not, can I have a motion or further discussion, please?
Mr. Chair, if I might, this is a public hearing.
Oh, sorry, I missed it. All right. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? Star 6 to unmute yourself, please. Okay. Then if there's a motion or further discussion, please make it so.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Zagainer?
Yes, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 8, Mesa Vista number 2, replat A.
Okay, once again, for the record, David Samaniego with Planning and Inspection. Item number 8 on the agenda is Mesa Vista number 2, replat A, a re-subdivision combination application. This application was originally approved by the Commission on March 25th of 2021, also on a re-subdivision combination basis. This development is located south of Interstate 10 and west of Lomeland Drive. Access to the subdivision is proposed from Gloria Street and Alamo Avenue, and this development is being reviewed under the current subdivision code. This is the plat superimposed on the aerial map. The applicant proposes to subdivide 0.7672 acres of land into 2 single-family residential lots. In addition, the Isleta Independent School District has joined as co-applicant to dedicate the portion highlighted in yellow of known as Gloria Street. This portion of Gloria Street had not been previously dedicated as a public right-of-way to the city of El Paso. This is the preliminary plat and the final plat. Suzu 21-2 Mesa Vista 2, number 2, replat A was previously approved on a re-subdivision combination basis on March 25th, 2021, subject to the condition that the portion of Gloria Street be formally dedicated prior to the recording of the plat in order to secure access for lot 16B pursuant to section 19.23.04.B lot frontage. I'd like to point out Gloria Street, which abuts the western portion of the 2 residential lots within the subdivision and provides access to the second lot at the bottom, which is lot 16B. Gloria Street was never formally dedicated and is currently owned by YISD. YISD has joined as co-applicant to formally dedicate the Gloria Street right-of-way and to provide proper access to the subdivision, so the development will be in compliance with section 19.23.040B, which states that each residential lot in the subdivision shall have a minimum frontage road onto a public or private street. Additionally, as per the plat notes, YISD has joined solely to dedicate the Gloria Street right-of-way and not as developer of the subdivision. The applicant is requesting one exception request, that is to waive the dedication of 1 foot of roadway and the construction of a 5-foot landscape parkway to Alamo Avenue. And this is per El Paso City Code 19.10.050.1A. The required and proposed cross sections are shown. Alamo Avenue is classified as a local street requiring a 52-foot right-of-way consisting of 32 feet of roadway and 2 10-foot parkways featuring a 5-foot landscape parkway and a 5-foot sidewalk. The existing conditions on Alamo Avenue for the applicant's proportionate share show an existing 6.5-foot sidewalk, but no 5-foot landscape parkway. These are the current conditions along Alamo Avenue. The applicant's property is shown on the left. Conditions along Alamo Avenue reveal sidewalks throughout the neighborhood. However, only 2 properties feature a modified landscape parkway. Evaluating the request to waive additional right-of-way and the construction of additional sidewalk improvements are within character of the existing neighborhood. And this is per section 19.10.050A1A, states that the City Plan Commission may waive such requirements to provide rights-of-way or street improvements to adjacent substandard roads based on any of the following factors. A, 50% of the lots within a quarter mile of the proposed development have already been developed, and the existing street improvements are in character with the neighborhood. And also I'd like to add that this request was previously approved by the Commission on March 25th of this year. Public notice was posted in the El Paso Times on Tuesday, May 18th of 2021. Notices were also mailed to property owners within 300 feet on May 17th. And actually, as of today, we have not received any communication in support nor opposition to this request. And with that, staff recommends approval of Mesa Vista number 2, replat A on a re-subdivision combination basis and approval of the exception request. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please? Star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Yvette Sierra. I'm representing the applicant. I believe Mr. Samaniego covered exactly what we are wanting to do. And the only thing I can add is that the purpose of this subdivision is to build a residence there that will be in accordance to all city codes. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? If not, can I get a motion? I'm
If I
sorry,
might-
excuse me, public, this public comment. If there's any members of the public that would like to speak, please star 6 to unmute yourself. I just assumed members of the public can't hang out this long, so they're gone, but maybe I'm wrong. Get a motion, please.
Motion to approve Kerry Whalen.
Second the motion. Jose Reyes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 9, Sunrise Acres Unit 1 Replat J, a public hearing item.
Okay, well, good afternoon. Adriana Martinez with Planning and Inspections. Item 9 on the agenda is Sunrise Acres Unit 1 Replat J. This is a re-subdivision combination application for the property that's located south of Hondo Pass Drive and west of US 54 in District 2. Here you can see the subdivision superimposed on the aerial. Here is your preliminary plat. The purpose of the replat is to re-subdivide 0.43 acres of land into 2 residential lots. Each lot is approximately 0.21 acres in size. All existing structures are to remain, and access to the subdivision is proposed from Leo Street. With that said, staff recommends approval of Sunrise Acres Unit 1 Replat J on a re-subdivision combination basis. And this concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? I have a question. Does that mean since it's on letter J, it's been replatted 10 times?
It's been replatted a couple of times. I'm not too sure if 10 to be exact.
Just a curiosity. All right. Can we?
Mr. Chair, if I might, one reason that this might be replat J is it may have been a larger subdivision, and there may have been smaller replats down the road. So this just happens to be, I guess, what 10 in line.
Okay, thanks. Can we hear from the applicant, please? Star 6 to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair and members of the Commission. Aaron Alvarado with Brock and Bustillos, and we agree with all staff comments and recommendations.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Then this is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public signed up to speak? Star 6 to unmute yourself. We'll entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve Kerry Whalen.
Second.
Guyanar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 15, Joe Battle rezoning.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Commission. John Scott with Planning and Inspections. Can everybody see my presentation and hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Item 15 on the agenda is a rezoning application for 1500 Joe Battle Boulevard. The applicant's requesting to rezone the subject property from R4 residential to C3 commercial. Here we see an aerial of the subject property. The property is a 15.03 acre parcel of vacant land currently. Here we see the current zoning of the property and the surrounding area. The subject property is zoned R3 residential. The applicant, as I mentioned, is requesting to rezone the subject property from R3 residential to C3 commercial. The properties to the north, south, and east are all vacant. To the north, as you can see, it's zoned C4 commercials with a condition. To the east, the property is outside the city limits, inside the El Paso 5-mile extraterritorial jurisdiction. To the south of the property, it's zoned R3 residential, vacant land, as I mentioned. And then to the west, across Joe Battle Boulevard, designated freeway by the City of El Paso Master Thoroughfare Plan. There's developed property, Zone C3, commercial, special contract, and R3A, residential. Here we see the future land use map. The subject property is located within the G4 suburban walkable future land use designation and is in keeping with the policies of Plan El Paso. Here we see a conceptual plan of the property and the proposed development. As I mentioned, the applicant proposes to rezone 15.03 acres of land from R3 residential to C3 commercial. The applicant intends to, as you can see from this conceptual plan, develop both the subject property and the property to the east, which would be on the top in this picture, that is in the El Paso 5-mile extraterritorial jurisdiction and outside the El Paso city limits. The proposed rezoning will allow for the subject property to be allowed the same use as that same property outside the city limits. And any parcels that are not across a designated freeway are currently vacant land. Primary access to the development is proposed from Joe Battle Boulevard. Here we see the subject property from Joe Battle Boulevard looking towards the east and towards the extraterritorial jurisdiction. Here we see the surrounding development. Again, to the north, we're going to have the vacant land zone C4 commercial. To the south, we're going to have the vacant land zone R3 residential. To the east, we'll have the vacant land, which is outside the city limits in the El Paso 5-mile extraterritorial jurisdiction. And then to the west, you'll have across Joe Battle, you'll have the property that's developed zone C3 commercial, which is going to consist of, in the picture you see, University Medical Center. Also a part of the C3 commercial zone section is Las Mansiones apartment complex, which describes itself as a resort style apartment complex. And then also to the southwestern edge, it was the R3A residential with a single family subdivision, residential family subdivision. As of, public notice for the rezoning was mailed May 19th of this year to property owners within 300 feet. And as of today, one email was received in opposition to the request received. I should have added at the beginning, this is one of the cases with a revised staff report, and the opposition email was sent just before the meeting. So my apologies for the revised staff report and just emailing that at the last moment. So with that, staff recommends approval of the rezoning request as the proposed development meets the intent of the G4 suburban walkable land use designation of Plan El Paso, the City of El Paso's comprehensive plan. And that concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Any questions for staff?
I do have a question on the access to Loop 75. Do we know if those driveways do comply with TxDOT's access accommodation policy? And if TxDOT's already they're going to provide access to them?
I'm sorry, the first part of the question cut out.
Yes, do we know if the driveways that are connecting to Loop 275, the frontage road, if they meet TxDOT's access accommodation policy?
Mr. Reyes, thank you very much for the question. I think I can assist Mr. Scott with the answer. Again, this is a conceptual plan. It's purely conceptual. What's before you today is just the rezoning. The details as far as the construction, and I'm not sure if this is platted or not, but if it's not platted, then obviously a subdivision plat will be required, and that's where finalization of those designs and approval by TxDOT will be required. Again, at this point, it's purely conceptual since it's just the rezoning.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, to further go along, this property is not platted.
Okay, any other questions for staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please? *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me? This is Daniel with Alvidres Architecture.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? If not, can I get a motion, please? Oh, this is a public hearing. If there are any members of the public that would like to speak, star 6 to unmute yourself. Okay, now we can hear. Please.
I have a quick question for Mr. Scott. This is Commissioner Kerry Whalen. Since you didn't get that letter till a little bit later, can you summarize some of the concerns of the citizen?
Yes, absolutely. The citizen was concerned with the development of C3 commercial property directly behind their home. Their home would have been abutting the extraterritorial jurisdiction. So that they were concerned with nightlife type of businesses being abutting the residential home and trash, as well as well, that was basically it. But if you want to give me one moment, I can read you the email.
I actually see it now. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see how it abuts any homes. I think maybe he's within 300 feet or whatever. Plus, he's in the ETJ, so.
Yeah. Right. It would. Go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
I would just, I mean, to just be clear, this actually was over notified for because the ETJ was included in the notification boundary, whereas it shouldn't have been. So he may not have actually got the notification, but that's not to be determined, and he did get it. But that was the only one that was received, and it is the one that I was forwarded before the email. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, John, can you go to the zoning map, please?
Absolutely.
So I think because the way it's located, you know, the only portion there, the area just directly to the east, although not part of this consideration, is part of the overall development, which there's no zoning there in the ETJ. So it's probably the residences there to the northeast that got notified and are concerned. But again, this is along Joe Battle and is an appropriate use for this area.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since there are no members of the public, entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve, Guzman.
Second.
Guynar.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 16, Pebble Hills detailed site plan.
Can everyone see my presentation?
Yes, we can, Emily.
All right. Good afternoon again. Emily Diaz-Melendez with Planning and Inspections. Item 16 on the agenda is a detailed site development plan located at 14300 Pebble Hills Boulevard. The property is located south of Pebble Hills and east of Tim Foster, with access through Pebble Hills and Tim Foster. The property is zoned C2C commercial with conditions, and the conditions are imposed per ordinance number 17072, requiring that a detailed site development plan be approved by City Plan Commission prior to the issuance of any building permits. The applicant proposes to construct a 49,968 square foot nursing home. The maximum allowed parking spaces is 43. The applicant is proposing 100 spaces. However, they are providing additional parking lot trees to meet the requirements of section 20.14.050E that requires an additional parking lot tree for every 5 parking spaces above the maximum allowed, in addition to the requirements of Title 18.46 of the Landscaping Ordinance. The development will also comply with condition number 2 of ordinance number 17072, which requires a 10-foot wide landscape buffer along the property abutting any residential use. The proposed building has a maximum height of 24 feet and 6.5 inches. This is the proposed site plan superimposed on the aerial image. This is the subject property from Pebble Hills Boulevard. It is currently vacant. Surrounding the property across the street to the north is a vacant lot zoned general mixed use. To the east, we have a special district which currently has a school site for Pebble Hills High School. To the south, we have apartments and it is zoned A2. And to the west, we have a residential development zoned R5. And with that, staff recommends approval of the detailed site plan as a proposal meets all the requirements of El Paso City Code 20.04.150 for a detailed site development plan. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz-Melendez. Any questions for staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please? Star 6 to unmute yourself.
Conrad Conde with Conde Incorporated, and we do concur with all staff's comments.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? If not, this is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? Star 6 to unmute yourself. Otherwise, entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Guinar.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Jose Reyes, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item number 17, the SD SAC 2 annexation.
Good afternoon. I'll close this out. So Karina Bresgallo with Planning and Inspection. Can everybody see and hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. So item 17 is a request for approval of the SISD SAC 2 annexation agreement. The applicant is requesting that the city annex approximately 60 acres of land within the extraterritorial jurisdiction adjacent to District 6. The subject property is located east of Joe Battle and south of Bob Hope. The area to the west was annexed in 2015, and it is immediately adjacent to the existing Student Activity Center. Here is the proposed conceptual plan. So the area will be developed as an expansion of the current SISD SAC, and it'll include an additional stadium, a maintenance building, soccer fields. There'll also be ponding on site and parking areas. So the plan also shows the extension of Bob Hope Drive east from its current terminus. The improvements to Bob Hope will be completed by El Paso County as part of their transit projects, and that's included in the annexation agreement. So this annexation is being requested to ensure continuation of city services to that SAC expansion. So continuity with things like fire PD, other emergency services between the two stadiums. The subject property. And here's the annexation agreement. So the conditions, most of these, again, pretty standard. This one will need to come in for a rezoning. So there's timelines on when they need to complete the rezoning. Again, that interlocal agreement assuring that Bob Hope Drive will be developed in accordance with the master thoroughfare plan, and then reimbursements for notification and emergency service district costs. We do also assess a annexation fee of $820 per dwelling unit. So in the event that this development didn't go forward and it was transferred over to a different developer, if there were any residences placed on there, the city would collect that fee. Again, here's the schedule of services. So immediate services upon annexation. Again, anything with the water, the roads, parks, all of those would depend on completion of the improvement and acceptance prior to us taking over any maintenance, but we would start immediately with PD and fire services. And with that, staff recommends approval of the SISD SAC 2 annexation agreement as the request is in compliance with the city's adopted annexation policy. Any questions?
Yes, this is Jose Reyes. Can you go back to that plan layout, please?
And again, this is, I'll clarify, this is conceptual. So we just asked for conceptual to get us into the development. They'll have to nail this down when they come in with the rezoning.
Yeah, because that little corner up there is capturing the whole Bob Hope right away.
Right, and so that's part of why the county will be completing the improvements. So the county has a planned improvement to Bob Hope that will complete Bob Hope from where it currently ends all the way into the county's boundary. So that little corner you see, it's not owned by Socorro Independent School District. And so the county will be improving that right of way, basically to ensure continuity. So they don't own it, so we can't ask them to improve it. Does that make sense?
But the county will be improving that piece? They'll be acquiring that piece? And
yes, so the county will be in.
When they acquire it, then that'll be turned over to the city. They'll be annexed. Okay.
Yes. So, well, it won't be annexed. I mean, that would be up to the county, but it will be improved, and the county will maintain this section of Bob Hope Drive.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Any other questions? If not, can I get a motion to approve, please? Please.
Motion to approve.
I think there's.
Jose Reyes, motion to approve.
Anyone?
Second, Sherry Wayland.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you.
You guys have a good evening.
You all too. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.